wholesale. I don't think anybody has ever attempted to do this before in this manner. But he decided that the way for his people to really be free and to be liberated and to live full lives would be to leave the Hindu religion, which they were in, and become Buddhist. And he considered this step to convert to Buddhism for many, many years, studied and learned about Buddhism. In the meantime, he was the first law minister in the new country of India, helped write the Indian Constitution. He wrote a ban on untouchability into the Constitution. But eventually he felt that there was nothing more that he could do using the devices of politics and the law to change society. And what they had to do was to do something more fundamental, and that would be to change his religion. And in 1956, he did change his religion. He was an amazing person. This is him with his wife and his dog. Apparently, I didn't find this out until February, but Ambedkar loved his dog. The people at his house said that when he came back from a trip, a speaking trip or something, he walked into the door, the first thing he would do is ask about the welfare of his dog. This is his sitting room in his house in Bombay. And this is of interest to us in the Triratna tradition, because it was probably in this room that he had a meeting with Urgyen Sangharakshita, the founder of our tradition. And here's a copy of a letter that he wrote to Banti, most likely while he was in the house there, telling him that he thought that the bhikkhus, the monks, needed to be much more active in promoting Buddhism in India. This is another sitting room. They have left these rooms exactly as they were when Ambedkar was living there. I believe that those are probably a pair of his glasses sitting on the center of the table. And interestingly, in the back, there is a standing Buddha. And Dr. Ambedkar had many different Buddha images, but the ones that he preferred were the ones that were standing Buddhas, because he liked the idea of Buddhism as an active religion, as an active practice. And he wanted to see monks and Buddhists going out into the community to help people. So in 1956, here he is taking ordination as a Buddhist, or taking the refuges and precepts as a Buddhist from U Chandramani. And this is a picture that I snapped in his house, which is a picture of him with the crowd behind. And there he is bowing his head down and touching the Buddha Rupa with help from his wife there. At this point in his life, he was gravely ill. He only lived for 6 weeks after this. But in the course of those few weeks, tens, hundreds of thousands of ex-untouchables became Buddhists, following his lead because they had such faith in him. This is a picture of the funeral march that they had in Bombay. When he died, they brought his body to Bombay, and they say that it was the largest mass gathering that Bombay had ever seen up until that point. So even though he died only 6 weeks after the conversion, the effect of that has been rippling out for the last 60 years or so. And when you drive around India, especially central India, you see statues of Ambedkar everywhere. He's usually, in his left hand, he's holding a copy of the Constitution, which outlawed untouchability, and then he's pointing the way forward. And he's always wearing a Western suit. It's a point of honor for him, because he saw that as a sign of modernity, moving away from what had been in the past. And in all these small farm communities and stuff, you find these small little viharas, and they usually have a statue of Dr. Ambedkar there. And these are used for weddings, family gatherings, Dharma teaching, in some cases meditation, but they're really short on people that know how to teach meditation. This is a mural that in one of these viharas I took this picture of. People rolling the Dharma chakra, the Dharma wheel, up towards the Buddha. And Ambedkar had really a profound faith in the Buddha. He referred to the Buddha as his teacher, the person who was the source of his views about religion, about society. This is a community I visited. Is basically a bunch of Buddhist people, a collection of 200 or 300 people who'd settled on an open field and were trying to build themselves a little community. But one of the first things they do is they build a statue of Dr. Ambedkar and they put up the Buddhist flag. So his influence in India has been remarkable. Everywhere you go in central India, you encounter the image of Dr. Ambedkar. And when people greet each other, they don't say hello, they say Jai Bhim, which means victory to Bhimrao, victory to Dr. Ambedkar. This is the stupa in Nagpur where the relics of Dr. Buddha are kept. And this is my most recent pilgrimage group. I think you recognize somebody in the background there. And if you look past Brad, you'll see what looks like a little white structure with a metal poles around it. That is the stage where he took refuge, where he became a Buddhist. So you have to imagine maybe 400,000 or 500,000 people gathered around, all wearing white. He told them to wear white. An interesting thing I found out just this last time to India is that the right-wing Hindus tried to block his car from getting to the site. They wanted to stop this thing from happening. And his associates had cleverly built a screen of cloths on a nearby street so that his car could get past them without them seeing it. So he managed to get here, managed to walk up these steps and take the refuges and precepts. So today is October 14th, which is the anniversary of this great mass conversion. And this picture, it's a little bit blurry, but you kind of get the idea that there's a few 100,000 people here on these grounds. In the foreground on the left, you see the monks that have gathered, and then there are people everywhere. It's not happening this year, obviously, because of COVID, but in many times I've gone there when there were 400,000 or 500,000 people here for this event. And it's an experience like no other experience you'll ever have, because the sense of joy and enthusiasm and a sense of being safely in their community, there's just nothing like it. If you're lucky, you can squeeze in and you can go into the center of the stupa and you can circumambulate the shrine where his ashes are. And then this is the crowd there, and they are absolutely delighted to have people come from Asia and the United States and Europe and stuff. It's incredibly joyous experience. And it reminds me of this quote that many of you have probably seen from Ambedkar. He said, "My final words of advice to you are educate, agitate, and organize. Have faith in yourself. With justice on our side, I do not see how we can lose our battle. The battle to me is a matter of joy. The battle is in the fullest sense spiritual. There's nothing material or social in it, for ours is a battle not for wealth or for power. It is a battle for freedom. It is the battle of reclamation of human personality." So I was reflecting on the tremendous impact that Ambedkar had, and why is it that people listen to him? I mean, there are lots of people out there with opinions, but why would they listen to this man? Why did he have such an outsized influence even today? There's several pieces of it. I mean, obviously he was a brilliant orator and a brilliant man. I mean, he was scary how smart this guy was, but that by itself is not necessarily going to make things happen. I think that the fact that he basically had unimpeachable integrity was something that really stood out in India. You know, he could have made a fortune if he had sold out. He could have made a fortune if he'd just kind of gone into private business. But everything that he did his entire life was for the cause of the liberation of the Dalit people, as he described them. He didn't use the word untouchable. He used the word Dalit, which in the local Marathi language means broken people. Okay. And so he gave everything to it. And you know, I've heard stories from people that knew him and watched him and stuff about he was tireless. He would just work all the time. He would work late into the night, get up early in the morning. He would speak everywhere. So he had energy, he had integrity. He was an honest man. He was also willing to speak truth to power. He took on the powers in India, and he took them on with tremendous zeal and enthusiasm, and he was a fantastic debater. And I'm going to talk more about one of the people that he took on in a few minutes. But beyond that, beyond all of that, Ambedkar was speaking from a deep conviction, a deep conviction. He was a highly moral man. He was a highly compassionate man. And those qualities that he had just shined out from him. The reason that he converted to Buddhism, the reason that he studied Buddhism for so many years was because for him, the ideals of wisdom and compassion were real things that he was devoted to. And he, as a great intellectual, felt that the Dharma was a way that you could change society in a nonviolent way, because you could change the way that people think. And going back to what we were talking about at the very beginning about deep listening, means being open to people, changing the fundamental way you see the world so that you're not seeing it as separate and other, you and other, making that great shift. It means changing your mind. And I'm going to quote Dr. Ambedkar. He said, "The greatest thing that the Buddha has done is to tell the world that it cannot be reformed except by the reformation of the mind of man and the mind of the world." So this is where he was coming from, and this gave him his power. And to this day, when you go to India, it is remarkable the effect that he has on millions and millions of people. And even people who are not Buddhist per se look to him as a moral exemplar. In the past year, when the Modi government in India has been doing some really terrible things, it is interesting to see that the people who are protesting outside the Capitol in New Delhi are carrying pictures of Dr. Ambedkar, because they see him as the person who spoke for religious freedom and for equality in India. And Muslims and Sikhs and Christians even join in their appreciation for him and their praise for him. One of the things that I found really touching, a few years back, I was in Nagpur on October 14th to go to the Diksha Bhumi, and we were driving down the road to get to the Diksha Bhumi grounds, the place where the conversion took place, where the stupa is. And we were basically stopped by the people from the Muslim community. And they basically said, you have to get out and have food and drink. Here, come, there's that sense of solidarity that they have with the Buddhists, which is really wonderful to be part of. So what I'm going to try to do is actually let you listen to Ambedkar, okay? I have some recordings of Ambedkar that I want to share with you. And I want to point out that, Ambedkar gave many, many positive and affirmative talks where he was encouraging people, but he was also a severe critic of people that he thought were upholding the caste system. And for Ambedkar, his bête noire, the one person that was doing the most, in his view, to hold up the caste system was Mahatma Gandhi, okay? And the two of them clashed repeatedly over the years. um, and debated. And so it just happens that the audio that I was able to find that is of high enough quality that we can listen to is him talking about Gandhi. And so let's see if I can bring this up for you. Padmatara can wave to me if there's a technical problem.
I met him first, say, in 1929, through the intervention of a friend of mine, common friend, who asked Mr. Gandhi to see me, you see. And so Mr. Gandhi wrote to me, saying that he would like to see me. So I went and saw him. That was just before going to the Round Table Conference. And then he came to the second Round Table Conference, didn't come for the first. And he was there for about 5-6 months. And there, of course, I met him also and faced him also, you see. Then, once thereafter, he also, after the signing of the Pune Pact, you see, asked me to come and see him. So I went to see him. He was then in jail, you see. But that's all the time that I have met him. But I always say that as I met Mr. Gandhi in the capacity of an opponent, I have a feeling that I know him better than most other people because he had opened his real fangs to me, you see, and I could see the inside of the man. You see, while others who generally went there as devotees, you see, saw nothing of him except the external appearance which he had put up as a Mahatma, you see. But I saw him in his human capacity, the bare man in him. And so I say that I understand him better, you see, than most of the people who have associated themselves with him can say.
You don't feel then that he fundamentally changed the aspect of...
Not at all, not at all. In fact, he was all the time double dealing. He conducted 2 papers, one in English, the Harijan, you see, and before that, Young India. And in Gujarati, he conducted another paper, you see, which is called the Deen Bandhu or something like that. Now, if you read the 2 papers, you will see how Mr. Gandhi was deceiving the people. In the English paper, he posed himself as an opponent of the caste system and of untouchability, you see, and that he was a Democrat. But if you read a Gujarati magazine, you see, you will see him a more orthodox man. He has been supporting the caste system, the Varnashram Dharma, and all the orthodox dogmas, you see, which has kept India down, you see, all through ages.
What were his real intentions with regard to the scheduled castes in the structure?
Well, he only wanted, you see, there are 2 things about the scheduled caste. We want untouchability to be abolished, you see, but we also want, you see, that we must be given equal opportunities, you see, so that we may rise to the level of the other classes. Mere washing off of untouchability is of no consequence. We have been carrying on with untouchability for the last 2,000 years. Nobody has bothered about it, you see. Nobody has bothered about it. Yes, there are some disabilities which are very harmful. For instance, people can't take water, and people can't have land, you see, to cultivate and earn their livelihood. But the other things which are far more important, you see, namely that they should have the same status, you see, in the country, and that they should have the opportunity to hold high offices, so that not only their dignity will rise, but also they will get what I call strategic positions from which they could protect their own people. Mr. Gandhi was totally opposed. Totally opposed.
So I hope that was reasonably legible. Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, it is what he's saying actually is quite true, that Mahatma Gandhi had two completely different political positions depending on which audience he was talking to. And elsewhere in this interview with the BBC, Ambedkar expresses what I would say was like outright incredulity that people in the West were kind of taken in by his public stance of being against untouchability and so on and so forth, when, as far as Ambedkar was concerned, Gandhi was working assiduously to maintain the caste system in India. So it's an interesting thing to think about. Yeah, I think for a lot of us in the West, that's a difficult thing to listen to, you know? You know, I, like many people, were raised on having read Gandhi's autobiography and watching that fantastic movie about Gandhi that won all the awards and stuff like that. And which turns out to be not very reflective of what actually happened. So anyway, but the thing is you can hear the voice of the man, and you know, it's wonderful. And yeah, he was just an amazing person. And he's a very central person to Triratna, you know, because in India, the Indian order, you know, they have the Buddha on the shrine, but they've got Ambedkar on the shrine too. And they think of him as a bodhisattva. And I think that there's a good case to be made that you can use the word bodhisattva to describe Ambedkar, just because of his complete devotion to working for the welfare of other people. Yeah, he was really quite extraordinary. So I'm going to stop there. And I think what we'll do is we'll have breakout rooms that Padmatara will have set up for us. I'm looking at her face and looking for a smile. Yes.
Yes, just give me half a minute and I'll have
okay, we'll give her half a minute. And so what I'd like to do with the breakout rooms is offer you two different options, okay? One option as a question to discuss is, you know, we're trying to learn to listen with clear awareness, like Mokshasi was talking about last week, okay? And so as we're trying to learn that, we are making choices about our communication in terms of who we're listening to and what it is that makes some people worth listening to. So if you want to have a discussion in your breakout about, you know, the idea of who you listen to and how that helps with your practice, that would be great. The other option, Ambedkar, of course, as you heard from that, was a very strong critic of people who he thought were acting unskillfully. And in our meditation today, in what was kind of loosely the fourth stage, I was suggesting that we reflect on what it is like to be actually open listening to and appreciative of people who are saying things that we don't want to hear, you know, that we would want to be defended from. You know, if you did that in the meditation and you had the experience of being open to difficult truths or open to criticism and stuff, maybe you could talk about what happened in the meditation. So you really have two choices there. One is to talk about how we listen in terms of who we choose to listen to. Okay, and the second would be to focus in on this idea of being open to listening when it's a difficult situation. So I'm looking at the clock here, and I think maybe we'll take about 20 minutes altogether. And if you want to self-organize your group to take a 3 or 4 or 5 minute tea break at the beginning of that, and then come back together in your breakout rooms, that would be great. And then after we all come back together, I'd be happy to answer any questions about Ambedkar or this idea of listening.